we had this other fellow. He's an ether. He belongs to a different circus. He belongs to the ether circus. Circus ether, okay? And again, we start with the same question for him, right? This clown, we try to make him understand what the question is. The question is, what is the mediator of light? And I guess he's going to propose ether vortices of some kind, you know? Okay, I don't know how he plans to simulate light. I didn't read his paper because when I went to his paper, he said he had a picture of the ether. That's what I was interested in. First, I need to see what this ether thingy is, this thing that nobody ever seen, nobody can draw, nobody can illustrate. And I said, yeah, that's where I start. Show me the ether. And so he gave me the runaround for a couple of weeks, probably more, and finally sent me to the ether. But the first thing he said in one of his comments, he said, atom is translucent. In translucent objects are spaced farther apart than in opaque materials. He's going to explain why, light can pass through. But I'm saying light pass through. What do you mean light pass through? Are you treating light as particles? Are you saying, or waves? Are you saying that this thing goes one way and it's passing through? And again, we have a problem because, again, I didn't read his paper, but I need to know what this ether is, which is the mediator of light in his case. So how does he reconcile the mediator that he's talking about, the ether, and talking about light passing through objects? I have a problem. First I need to see the ether. Then I can visualize what he's talking about when he says light pass through. And so, again, I don't know what he's talking about until he can illustrate the ether. And so, again, we went around for a couple weeks. He finally sent me to a page of his, page 8, I think it was. He says, when I say ether, people can at least relate to general idea that there's something present between objects. Yeah, something present. What are you talking about? I mean, are you talking about a rope? And as soon as I say rope, no, that's not it. Okay, so what is the something that is between two objects, two atoms or two particles, two whatevers? And so, again, until I see this ether thingy, I don't know what he's talking about. And he says the ether is a real physical medium. Good, great. That means that we can illustrate it, because if it's a medium, why can't you illustrate it, right? And so he says it explains interaction, blah, blah, blah. It explains everything. Once you have the physical object, maybe you can explain stuff, but until we can see the object, we cannot explain a single thing. We cannot visualize the physical interpretation that you're offering. We need pictures, images. First show the mechanism, then you can explain it. But first, I ask you to explain how a motor works. And you say, well, I don't have a motor. I don't know what a motor looks like, or never seen a motor, but let me tell you my theory. No, I want to see the motor first. Don't talk about a motor and how it works, and you don't show me the motor. You don't show me even the pistons or whatever. Come on. First thing you got to do is show the objects. That's the first step. You don't have objects, you can't begin your presentation, period. That's where it dies. And that's why I didn't even read his paper. I mean, until I see the ether, I've got nothing to even imagine. I don't know what he's talking about. So he went in there after several weeks, and he told me that it's sent me to page 8, I think it was, and he says, there it is, page 8. He says, there's the ether. And in the page 1, he had another similar thing, which I think is also the ether. But there's a little bit of difference between them, and you can see that one has something around it. The other one just has the frame of, it's like he cut it off there, right, the first one. So I don't know what's giving shape to that first ether that he's illustrating there. And it turns out that it looked to me like it was swirled molasses. And just by sheer coincidence, I just went in there and said, well, I'm going to put in images in Google, swirled molasses, see what I get. And I got the pictures that I wanted. And the one on the left there, at the bottom left, that's the original one. I changed the colors, put opposite colors, and it matches exactly what he's putting in there. So no longer is it called the ether. Now it's going to be called swirled molasses, okay, folks? From now on, please don't insult them by saying the ether. It's swirled molasses. And yeah, the only issue I've got is, what is this? What are those things that are giving shape to the to molasses? In the case of the one at the bottom, it's in a cup of some sort, and that we can all understand because it's got something that holds it in. And the question on the one on the top, what is that grayish thing that encapsulates the bluish swirl there? That's the question that I've got. And so he's got to identify that. He can't say, well, the one on the left, the one on page 8, that's the ether. Yeah, I need to know what's outside of that, what gives shape to that. And again, if he's got that swirl, that means that, the ether is made out of gazillions of particles to make that swirl. It's got some kind of fluid or gas or water or whatever, right? But the problem there is that he says it's made out of a single piece. It's continuous. So we got a problem with continuous, meaning single piece, and made of pieces. Those are contradictory descriptions of what he's trying to tell us. And so again, until I see this ether and find out what it is and what's outside of it, what gives it shape, we don't have something to start with. There's no reason to read his paper. What are you going to read? Nonsense? So he kept for several weeks saying, I've never seen the air. So I've never seen the ether, and you want me to imagine, but I see no reason to. He sees no reason to imagine his ether. He's just going to talk about the ether, whatever it is. You're going to talk about the motor without the motor, in other words, right? So electricity, magnetism, and gravity are invisible. Yeah, tell me about it. But nonetheless, very real phenomena. Yeah, he said nothing there. I have never seen the air. He's never seen the air. One of those few people on earth that hasn't seen the air. So I had to show him what the air looks like. So here's the air, okay? There you have air, okay? You can see air. I've put it in a little, in the Universal movie in a single frame, so not a single atom, not a single electron is moving in there, because that's what a single frame in the Universal movie represents. And so there you can see air. That's what air looks like. It's just a blob of air that an astronaut, just let go from a balloon. And as soon as it comes out of the balloon, it's going to disperse, right? But before it disperses, I took a picture of it. And there we have a snapshot with God's camera. Nothing is moving. Not a single electron in there is moving in that frame. Everything in the universe is frozen still. And there you see what air looks like. This is green air, by the way. But that's what it would look like. A bunch of atoms, right? A bunch of molecules forming some kind of blob. Does it have shape? Hopefully it does. What is the shape? We don't care. That's not the question. The question, does it have shape? And I think that thing has shape. Okay, so shape all by itself. It doesn't require any other thing except, an enclosure, something on the outside of it. But other than that, there you have it. That's what we want him to do with his ether. Show me your ether and something around it. Identify what's on the outside. Very simple. Otherwise, these clowns, they got to go back to the circus. Do some more work. Erase their boards? I don't know. Okay, then he said, density is a forbidden work in physics? Are you kidding me, Bill? Density, like in density of water droplets, is a real physical phenomenon. Again, he says it's a phenomenon. Yeah, density is not a physical object, okay? And but that's how they treat it. Says it may not be an object, but it still is a real phenomenon and very important in physics. No, absolutely not. Density is a mathematical word, and there you see the definition. If you looked it up, you wouldn't have said something clownish like that. Density is a measure of how much stuff is. Much sounds like math. Much. Where did I hear the word much? I think in math, right? Yeah, measure of how much stuff. That's what density is, packed in a given amount of space, right? So there you see the equation: density equal mass divided by volume. I don't know if there's a physical object called mass. I don't know if there's a physical object called volume. I think those are just numbers. You have kilograms, some volume there, right? And they dilute, and you got density. That's it. And when you have a black hole, you have zero density. And this zero density thingy, affects stars far away. So that's great for mathematical physics, right? But this fellow doesn't believe in black holes, but he's using the word density again. And yeah, we don't use the word density in physics. Okay, so you're outside of science. You're talking math. Okay, that's not got nothing to do with physics. What is physics? Rational explanations. You cannot explain anything with the word density. Okay, density only has to do with math. Math does not explain. Math only describes. Period. We're done. No more. Okay. Explain. You need objects. We're talking about physical interpretation. You need to put an object there. I need to see the motor. And once you have the motor, I don't need any math. Just tell me how it moves and why it moves the way it does. Don't give me, well, we have so much energy coming in and the field vibrates over here and there's so much mass. Forget about all that. We need, or density, right? We need to see the physical objects in motion. That's what we're asking. We're asking you, please explain the mechanism of gravity. I'm not saying how fast it moves. I don't care about that. We don't care about quantities. We want to know what the mechanism is. Why does a pencil fall to the floor, not to the sky? What's causing that? How can we get those questions answered? You know, these people don't talk. They say, what's the density? No. Density has nothing to do with the question we're asking. We want the mechanisms, not the density. Density is a mathematical word, has no place in physics, no place in science. Science is not about description. Science is explanations, rational explanations. So he says, according to bgaede, you don't need experiments in science. Absolutely. I don't need an experiment to find out what physical object mediates gravity, what physical object mediates light, etc., or what an atom looks like. I don't need any experiment or any math for that. Okay, so I don't need what experiment are you going to run? Here's the experiment. Okay, once again, okay, we let go of the pencil. Okay, it falls to the ground. So I did the experiment. Let me do it twice because they say it's got to be repeatable, otherwise it's not scientific. Okay, so let's do it twice. 2 times now. Okay, no problem. Okay, so I did the experiment. What did I learn? Did I learn what the mechanism of gravity is? Why it's pulling the pencil downwards or pushing the pencil downwards if it's a push force? For that, you need to identify the physical objects that are pushing or pulling. Don't talk about volume. Don't talk about pressure. Don't talk about density. None of those words have anything to do with the question. The question is, what causes it? I need to identify the objects. You need to make the objects visible so that we can see your mind, what you have going through your mind. That's the issue. Okay? He says, just invent the theory, imagine it in your head, and that's enough. Exactly. That's what a theory is. You present a theory, you say, look, I think this is how Mother Nature runs her shop, or Father Universe runs his world, right? That's it. No proof. You can't prove light. You cannot prove the mediator of light. You cannot prove the mediator of gravity because it's intangible and invisible. What are we going to do? Go to the lab to touch gravity, or the mediator of gravity? Are we going to go to the lab to touch the mediator of light? See it? Of course not. This is something you can only visualize, and you have to make sense of it. So you put a mediator and say, with this mediator, let me make sense of light. Let me make sense of gravity. Let me make sense of the workings of the atom. Then, yes. But, it's not a question. You can invent angels if you want, but then you got to reconcile the angel with what you're explaining. And this is where you run into trouble, because you have to show the consistency of the angel without introducing too many variables in there, right? Because otherwise, you get into Occam's rule. Anyways, and again, that's got to do with belief. Some people want to believe in angels. You can't stop them. They think that angels move the earth around the sun. What are you going to do? That's what they believe. Okay, you have people believing the flat earth. Others believing we didn't go to the moon, and you have all kinds of people out there. And everybody believes in whatever they want. No problem. I'm not going to twist your arm and make you believe in angels or in God because that's what I believe in, or vice versa. Don't try to convince me of your religion. I just explain so that you understand. That's what we're talking about. And so science is what? Rational explanation. That's the definition of science. That's a scientific definition of the word science. Okay? And so test and experiment, what do? They give you evidence. What is evidence used for? To persuade you, to convince you. That's why we use evidence. So that's why it's not part of science. It's part of religion. Evidence is part of religion. And proof knowledge, again, part of religion. Knowledge or proof means I convince you. I persuaded you and was able to convince you. That's all that, another person was unconvinced by the evidence, still is skeptical of your theory, okay? And so he accuses me. He says that what I do is not modern physics, modern science. He says, well, what you're doing is not modern physics. He says, today, physics is an academic and professional field, is about building mathematical models that match observations and can be used for predictions and technology. Yeah, that's what these people do. That doesn't mean that what they do is physics. We have to define the word physics, then find out if it matches what they are saying that they do. And he's saying, but that's what they do. We have to match the word physics to what they do and not define physics rationally and force the mathematicians to follow the definition. So we have a problem. Yeah, we have a problem because if something is broken, you got to fix it. And he's saying, don't fix it. Let's keep using it as is. The chair has one broken leg and, we're sitting down and falling sideways. Don't fix it because we all sat on that chair and we all have to deal with it. No, let's fix the chair. If it's broken, let's fix it. And they don't want to fix it. They say there's too many people out there that believe in the broken chair and we just have to live with it. And no, I don't agree with that. I'd rather fight the whole establishment. I don't care if I'm all by myself in the world. Or like Curly said once in Three Stooges, they said, all for one and one for all. And Curly says, I'm for myself. I'm for myself, okay? Anyways, what you are doing belongs to the tradition of natural philosophy. I have no idea what that is. Philosophy, nobody defined the word in 1,000 years, in almost 3,000 years, for certain 2,500 years since Plato, right? So nobody defined the word philosophy. Today, nobody knows what the word philosophy means. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, they haven't defined the word philosophy, so you won't find it in their dictionary. And you're saying, hold it, these are the number one site of philosophy in the world, and they don't have a definition for the word philosophy. What is philosophy? Love of wisdom. What's your degree in? Oh, I got a PhD in love of wisdom. Oh, great. Okay, so I say, you will always be in a semantic fight with people who are using the current accepted definition. The current accepted definitions, they don't exist. That's the issue. And they're all irrational, just like the word philosophy and the word science and the word physics. They're all irrational definitions. And if you deal with the irrational definitions, you're not going to communicate your theory, and that's where we're at today. Nobody can explain anything about the universe of the invisible, intangible mediators. Why? Because they haven't defined the words. They don't know what an object is. They don't know what a thing is. They don't know what exist means. They don't know what a location is. They don't know what motion is. They say it's the change of blah, 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 blah. Change is already motion. So don't define motion in terms of change. And so on. I mean, it's on and on and on. All definitions of mathematical physics, you can call it physics, are irrational, are garbage. They should all be thrown in the trash can. And that's why, definitions are important. You cannot make your case without definitions. And he says, no, you should follow their definitions. Yeah, I guess. But this is the problem today. All these people, they don't believe that you have to modify the language. And they say, no, let's keep using the same language we've used all these years and see if we can make sense of the universe with all these irrational definitions. That's what they're saying. And the answer is no.